Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from JennyCarddesigns. Thanks so much for joining me today. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting tutorials and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. Today I'm going to show you how I create ink swatches for all of my ink pads. I have this 2-inch binder ring and I've cut up pieces of cardstock and stamped all of the colors of my ink pads and labeled them with the brand initials and the color of the ink. For JennyCarddesigns, we have GKD. And what else do we have? We have Hero Arts and MFT. This is so I have a quick synopsis of all of the colors that I have in my ink pad shelf. This is not all of my ink pads. This is a pretty good selection of them. And once I was completed doing all of my ink swatches, I was so happy and proud of myself for the time that I took to create this. And then I was going over the beauty of it and look what I found. 2 ink swatches that are upside down. I'm going to replace these 2 ink pad swatches and I'm going to show you how I create my ink pad swatches. So the first thing that I have is this Simon Says Stamp Swatches stamp set. It comes with 4 different stamps to stamp your images. And I also bought the bundle that came with little ink swatch sheets and a little ring. But I didn't like the size of them and this was not big enough for my collection of ink pads. So these are the 2 inks that I'm going to be ink swatching today. I've got Hero Arts Shadow Ink, Green Hills, and JennyCarddesigns Lucky Clover. All of my ink pads, I have printed the name and labeled the outside and also stamped the color, and I've also laminated those and then cut them up and glued them to the front of my ink pads. So this is how I can kind of see a quick snippet, and then if I want to match something to a project, then I can use my ink swatch guide. Plus, it's just really pretty to look at. I just feel like it's such a lovely thing to have hanging in my craft room. I really like this. Super cute. All right, so let's get to cutting up the cardstock that we're going to use to create these swatches and get moving here. For my ink swatches, I'm using JennyCarddesigns heavyweight cardstock. It's a really nice smooth cardstock and I love the stamping results that I get with this paper. So I've got a trimmer here and I'm gonna trim a strip that measures 2 inches. So across the 11-inch side, I would start cutting at 2-inch intervals. And then across the 8.5-inch side, I'm going to cut at 2 3/4. Out of 1 sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, you're going to get 15 swatches. Okay? Just so that you have an idea of how many sheets of cardstock that you'll need for your ink pad collection. The final measurement for our ink pad swatches is 2 inches by 2 3/4 inches, and I think it's just the perfect size. So we're going to load these up into our MISTI stamping tool. Actually, what I'm going to do first is pull out the ones that are upside down. I'm going to use this as a place marker for my stamps. So I'm going to just kind of line it up because I want them all to look the same. So I want to make sure that's lined up as close as I can get it. And then I'm going to close the door of my MISTI and pick up those stamps. And then I'm going to take my fresh sheet of cardstock and pop it into the corner of my MISTI. Use my magnet to kind of hold that in place. just going to get everything in frame here for you. So we'll start with jennycarddesigns Lucky Clover, and I'm going to ink up my stamp, make sure that I get a good transfer of ink. I also want to check, I'm going to test stamp this first to make sure that there's no residual ink left on my ink pads, because the last color I stamped with was red, and I don't want any of that red to transfer into my green. So I'm going to stamp this a couple of times. Now, even though I cleaned my stamp really well, sometimes the residual ink still transfers because it's red. Red is a tricky color to get off your stamps. All right, I think that's good enough. So let's pop in our piece of cardstock. Use the magnet to hold it in place. And I'm going to ink up this stamp nice and good. Close the door of my MISTI and press. And there we go. Now, I don't like to stamp these multiple times. I like to just get one pass of ink so that I can see what the color looks like in its natural state. Okay, so that one's done. And then I'm just going to wipe off my stamp with a dry cloth just to make sure I don't get any extra green transferred to my next color. I'll put another piece of cardstock into my MISTI and ink up with the Hero Arts Green Hills ink. I'll close the door of the MISTI and press. And there we go. So our ink swatching is done. The next thing we're going to do is put the labels on here. Now, this is something that I print from my computer, and I just use printer paper, and I punch that out and adhere it down to the top of the card. So I'm gonna print something off real quick. So I've gone ahead and printed off all of my ink pad names. And what I'm going to do is just grab some scissors and cut out the ones that I need. So I have this old punch. This is from Stampin' Up. I'm not even sure where I got this from, but it's just a neat little label. And I use this for swatching my Distress Oxides and many other things. And I use this for all of my ink pad swatching. So I'm going to take my punch, line up the words for my ink pad, and punch it out. And I'll do that to both of them. Okay, and then I'm going to grab some adhesive. I have a dot liner here, and I'm going to apply adhesive to the back of these and pop them onto my little ink swatch. So this one is the Hero Arts Green Hills. And this one is the Gina K Lucky Clover. There we go. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is use one of the older messed up swatches, and I'm going to line it up with my other... Oh, I almost did that the wrong way. Okay, so I want to make sure that my words are upright, and I'm going to punch my hole into the color down here. So I'm going to take my old swatch and line it up with that cardstock, and I'm going to use that little hole as a guide for where I'm going to punch. So I've got my crocodile here, and I'm just going to line that hole up where I can see all of the green. Make sure I get it in the same spot and punch. Okay, and then lastly what I'm going to do is round the corners. I have a corner rounder here, and I'm going to use the 1/4 inch. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch rounding, and I'm going to round all of these corners. There we go. And then I'm going to put them back in the right spot on my ring. And we're going to put Lucky Clover first, and then Green Hills on top. And close this ring up. There we go. Now, all my ink pad swatches are in the same orientation. This is a really great project to do when you're not sure what to do in your crafty space and you want to create, but you don't know what to create. Try swatching out your ink pads. So the last thing I want to do is dig through my scraps to create a little sort of, what would you call that? Like a divider in between my ink pads. Now I need a bunch of colors to separate the rainbow on my ink swatches. So for these, I want to cut pieces that are the same width. So we're going to stick with the 2 inches. But instead of 2 3/4, I'm going to cut these at 3. Okay, so there's a pink. Okay, so here are all my colors of the rainbow. I think I'm missing black. I still need a black one. I can come back to that later. Okay, so anyways, here are all of my colors. And what I'm going to do is round the corners on these as well. So I'll start with that. Okay, so all of my colors are rounded, and I'm going to take that messed up swatch, and I'm going to use that as a guide to punch my hole. Okay, so I'm going to take a few of those. I will line these up. I don't think I should line it up with the green because I won't be able to see it. There we go. So I'll line up my hole and punch. Okay, and then I'll do that for the rest of them. All right, so now let's go back to the ink pad swatches, and we're going to start with the gray. We'll start here with the gray. I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to flip through all of my grays. And what's the next color here? Brown. So once we finish the grays, I'll start with the browns. And I'll put my little colored cardstock there and keep flipping until we hit, what are we going to hit next? Brown still. Now we're at kind of orange. Okay, keep going until we hit yellow. Yellow. And then flip, flip, flip. What's the next color? Should be green. That's the next color in the rainbow order. So green. There we go. Next color should be, it should be teal, I think, or turquoise. So mint is still green. That's still green. Mint, still green, and we'll start with Antigua. This is a really nice color. It's kind of a teal green, sort of in the middle. Okay, so, and these are all of our teals. We'll keep flipping until we hit the blues. I think we may have missed one. Nope, emerald is the last green. The next color we have is pool, and we'll start with our blue. And flip, flip, flip. Next color will be purple. Pop in our purple. Okay, next color should be pink. Yep. Pink. And then we should hit the reds. There we go. All right. So here we are. Our ink pad swatches are now separated by color family, and having that little extra tab on top kind of lets you know, okay, you know, where to start looking. If you're looking for a yellow, you can find all the yellows that we have right here. And if you're looking for a green, we can find all of the greens, and so on. And my swatches are all marked from lightest to darkest. So we have the lightest pink, the next color, and the next color, and so on, until we get to the darkest, and then into the next color family. So then we have peach, and light, medium, dark, and then into the reds, and then light, medium, and dark. There we go. This is such a fun project, and I feel like it is a large accomplishment for me, so I'm really enjoying this. I hope that this video gives you some inspiration to swatch some of your ink pads and create a rainbow of fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. If you're enjoying the content that you see in my YouTube channel, make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you along my card making journey. Coming up on screen is another video sharing some craft room organization that may help you organize your crafty space. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!